What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Happy Saturday and a happy Easter weekend to all of you out there. Hope you guys are off to a great start to your weekend and hope you have some quality time in store with the fam tomorrow as well. But before we get into all that Easter Sunday business, guys, it is Saturday here today, and we are less than a month away from the tip-off to the 2025 WNBA regular season. So, we got to dive into some futures, man. We got some awards to talk about, and we got to figure out who's going to win the championship, man. Who's going to take the crown home this year? So, we're going to go ahead and dive into those here in this video. I'm going to use DraftKings personally here in this video. That's just the interface that I like to use the best. So that's what I'm going to use here in this video. But you should be able to find any of these picks that we go over here on any of the sports books, whatever one it is that you use yourself. And looking back at last year, man, we had a year, right? We had a good little season here in the WNBA. Now, I started making my videos about a month late, right? A month into the season. I think it was June 10th, the first video that I put out. We finished the regular season pretty strong, man. 95 and 88 record overall. We were up 9.42 units. Then we went into the playoffs and posted a 31 and 18 record overall, up 8.46 units. So we finished the whole season, regular season and playoffs overall, up 17.88 units with a 126 and 106 record overall. So nothing to hate at, right? Definitely a good start, man. And I look to build on that here this year, and a full season, right, from the beginning of the year all the way through the championship, guys. So make sure you smash that like button down below. Make sure you hit subscribe. That way you can join into this WNBA betting community that we have formed over here at Guy Boston Sports. Man, I had a blast talking with you guys in the comments last year throughout the WNBA season. You start seeing your regulars down there, and it just becomes a dialogue where you just talk every video I post, and I'm going back and forth with a couple of you about different picks, different, just different ways to look at the game in general. So definitely had a blast, and I look forward to more of that this year, and hopefully we can just keep building on that community and keep stacking up on the units, man. That's the whole goal of this, right? So we've wasted enough time, me rambling on and on and on and on and on. Let's go ahead and dive right into the mix. Like I said, though, smash that like button for me. Hit subscribe. Let's look at the first awards. We're going to be starting off with the sixth player of the year. Let's jump over here to DraftKings and look at that one real quick. And this one I feel is tricky because here's the thing is like we're looking at this, like I said, a little less than a month to go before tip-off. We got a May 16th tip-off. And we don't really know what the rotations are going to look like yet. You know what I mean? We got Tiffany Hayes as the favorite for sixth player of the year, which makes sense in a sense. She was the sixth player of the year last year, the reigning champ, right? However, she was with the Aces on a loaded Aces squad. She has now been picked up by the Golden State Valkyries, that expansion team that will begin play this year. I don't think she's coming off the bench for them personally. I think that she will start. So for her to be a plus 300 favorite is kind of surprising to me. And then looking at Marina Mabrey, it's kind of the same thing, right? She was a sixth player last year for Chicago. And then they traded her to Connecticut, or no, she started for Chicago, excuse me. They traded her to Connecticut, where she did become a sixth player. But Connecticut's teams have been completely dismantled in the offseason. You know what I mean? Marina is now the star of that team. No more Alyssa Thomas, no DeWanna Bonner, no Brianna Jones. The list goes on. No Dejounte Carrington. Marina Mabrey is now the top dog over there, in my opinion. So I don't think she comes off the bench either. So then we're left with Leonie Fibich of the Liberty, and then Sophie Cunningham, who was picked up by the Fever in the offseason. Those are now our two favorites if we eliminate Hayes and Mabrey, like I feel like we should, unless I'm missing something. Um, it's kind of the same with Fibich. There's a chance that Fibich could start. Definitely came off the bench last year until the playoffs. And then we started seeing her shift into that starting lineup, and she played a huge role in New York's run to the championship last year. So, looking at the Liberty's lineup, there's definitely a chance that she comes off the bench still, but there's definitely a chance that she starts as well. So these top three picks here, it's like shaky. Your favorites are kind of shaky, and then we're left with Sophie Cunningham, who, in my opinion, if I'm gonna look at this one and I'm gonna actually place a bet on anything, I would probably lean in Sophie's direction. Right? Indiana has a ton of talent that they've added on, and their starting five is pretty solidified. And we'll discuss that here in a little bit as well. We'll get into each of these, the major player movements as well. But end of the day, the Fever's starting five, it should be pretty solidified. I do believe that Cunningham will be coming off the bench there. And she's a good talent as well. Very good shooter, a decent defender, can create a lot of opportunities for herself and for others around her. Just a pretty good overall role player, in my opinion. So I could definitely see her being a option here for the sixth player of the year, as well as Fibich if she is coming off the bench. But like I said, man, With the 6th player of the year one, this one's tricky because it's we just don't know the rotations yet. So this is probably one that I would stay off of personally, but if I'm gonna look in any direction, it's gonna be Sophie Cunningham at that plus 1,300, which, at plus 1,300, it might be worth a small sprinkle. And next up, we're gonna be looking at the defensive player of the year. Now, last year, we saw Nafisha Collier win it, and then we saw Asia Wilson win it, in 2022 and 2023, the 2 years before that. She finished 2nd in voting the fee last year. And we jump over here to DraftKings, and we can see those 2 are sitting at the top and as favorites, and it's, obviously, right? Plus 120 for Asia Wilson, plus 300 for Nafisha Collier. And obviously, looking at this, man, they are the favorites for a reason. So, that could be the direction that we go in this one, obviously, but I like to look at Angel Reese over here as a sleeper, man, plus 1,500 odds. That's the fun of these futures, right? You can go with all chalk if you would like, and probably profit at the end of the day, or we could take a chance. You know what I mean? And like, I think I'm gonna take a chance personally. I like Angel Reese. Um, overall, she catches so much. No other way to put it. She catches so much shit all over the internet, man. I see it all the time. It's either people like myself, that are like, "Nah, she's a baller," or like 75% of the damn nation, it seems like, that's on the other side where it's like, she just gets all those rebounds because she misses so many shots, blah, 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 blah. That is the stupidest argument I've ever heard, y'all. It's the stupidest argument, and here's why, man. Okay, yeah, she misses a handful of layups underneath the rim. Is there not 5 other players on the other team with the same opportunity to grab the rebounds? Like, she is still getting the rebounds. So how she's getting them is just kind of irrelevant to me. She's getting them. That's the point, right? But yeah, anyways, I'm a big fan of Angel Reese. I think that she is going to take another step forward this year. And my big thing about her, the thing that I like about her most is she is a very, very extremely hard worker. And you kind of saw it in her limited action in Unrivaled. She ended up with a hand injury, so she didn't get to play that much in Unrivaled. But saw it kind of at the beginning, right? What she need to work on? She needs to work on her outside shooting. And what's she doing in Unrivaled, man? We're seeing more mid-range jumpers from her. And they look good. They look good. Obviously she's got some room for improvement on the offensive end. Where I don't feel like she needs that much room for improvement is on the defensive end, man. She's a killer on the glass. We all know that. She averaged about a steal and a half per game last year. Now, the blocks are something that could hurt us here in the defensive player of the year, right? We see Fee and Asia, they're just overall just balanced defensively. And Brianna Stewart as well. We can't forget about her. But I do like Angel's ability down low, like I said, on the glass, and I like her defensively to take a step forward this year as well. Something else that we could look at is going to be this rookie down here, Dominique Malonga out of France, and then Ezzy Magbagor as well. Both of them coming from Seattle, the Storm. Going to have some twin towers over there, right? Ezzy's already been over there, manning the post down there, and has become a defensive specialist throughout her time in the league. Then we got this rookie coming in from France at 6'6". She's just length and size for days, right? So I think the combination of these two is going to be pretty deadly for the rest of the league. It's going to be very hard to score on the Seattle team down low. The only thing with Malanga, and this is kind of a long shot, at plus 2,000, kind of shows it, but the only thing that would concern me with taking really either one of them, I mean, starting off with Malanga, there's just a ton of depth in that Seattle front court. So there's not, there's not a guarantee that she's going to get a lot of playing time right off the rip. It's probably going to be, where they work her in slowly, if I had to guess. So I think that definitely hurts her chances here. And I think Magbagor, just the combination of all that depth in that front court, it's not gonna take from her abilities, but she's not gonna shine as much of it as a Asia or a Fee. All right, next up, we're going to be looking at the most improved player of the year. That's a pick here that might surprise some. So let's go ahead and jump over to DraftKings, check out the odds. So we can see right off the rip here, Caitlin Clark is the favorite at plus 500. We got Rakia Jackson of the Sparks after that, and Angel Reese, Cameron Brink also of the Sparks coming in as at fourth. And then Kate Martin rounding out the top 5 as far as favorites for the most improved player of the year. Kate Martin was with the Aces last year, the former Iowa teammate of Caitlin Clark. Obviously, there was so much talent on that Aces squad last season. She didn't get a ton of playing time, but she made do with what she got and had a solid rookie season. carving out a nice little solid support role for the Aces. So I do like her moving over to the Valkyries and taking on a bigger role. So she's definitely somebody that we could have an eye on, right? We talked about Angel Reese as well for Defensive Player of the Year, possibility there. If we see any kind of improvement from Angel Reese on the offensive end, we could look at her as well in this category. But my favorite for this, we're going to go ahead and scroll on down here. Leah Edwards, plus 1,800. And this is definitely one that I'm going to put a play in, just determining how much I want to put, man. Half unit or a full unit. Maybe two. I'm not sure. I like this one. I probably like this pick more than any play that we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to tell you why. Edwards was a huge surprise, right, in the unrivaled 1 versus 1 tournament, which was awesome. I think I've said this already, but I'm going to go on record saying it again. NBA needs to bring this to the All-Star game. You want to make All-Star weekend fun again? Bro, have a one-on-one tournament. I mean, the energy that these WNBA players brought into that, like what do Hoopers want? Hoopers want to be recognized as the best, and you gave them a platform to show who's the best, right? Tell me that these NBA superstars would not thrive in an environment like that, and that they wouldn't go hard, and it wouldn't be the greatest entertainment for us as basketball fans. But anyways, she was a monster in that tournament, guys. A monster. And like I said, a huge, huge surprise after a quiet rookie season with the Mystics, where she was really more of a defensive minded, like a role player, right, throughout her rookie season. But look, man, this Kobe loving, purple and yellow braid rocking girl, man, she's got some talent on the offensive end that I think a lot of people forgot about. You know what I mean? She was a star over there at UConn, and those offensive talents, they were on full display in that 1 versus 1 competition. Look, she knocked off and completely dismantled all defensive first team member Brianna Stewart, right? She beat her 12 to nothing in that first opening round. And she took down Alicia Gray. She took down Enrique Agumbawale after that to punch her ticket into the finals to take on Nafisha Collier. And I mean, there you got to give her credit, man. She held her own as well against one of the best talents, if not the best talent in the WNBA. She won. That one was a best of 3 series once they got to the championship. She won the first game against Fee. We were over here like, man, is she got to surprise us all? Take this whole thing. Now, obviously, Fee, like I said, in my opinion, the best player in the league, the best women's basketball player on earth right now is Nafisha Collier. And she won those last 2 games to take that 1 versus 1 tournament and wear the crown. But man, we got to see Aaliyah Edwards display that offensive bag that she has, and much more of a sense of that than what we saw throughout the regular season last year in her rookie season. She is a much more balanced and complete player than I think anybody wants to give her credit for. Look, she attempted only 7 threes throughout her entire rookie season last year. She made none of them, right? And her first shot attempt in the Unrivaled League, it was a three-pointer. She splashes it against Stewart in round 1. She hit 2 threes. Now, I know it's a small sample size, but bear with me. She hit two threes there. A sweet jumper, sweet mid-range jumper. She had a layup, up and under layup on the baseline. I mean, she was like basically tiptoeing against the line. And this is all, like I said, all against Brianna Stewart in one-on-one setting. You know what I mean? And Brianna Stewart is a top-notch elite defender. So does all this translate to the WNBA? Because, like I said, it's a small sample size, right? Well, the Mystics' top scorer from last year was Ariel Atkins. She is now gone. She has since been traded to the Sky. They still do have Brittany Sykes. They have Shakira Austin. They have Stephanie Dawson. So it's not like, they don't have any offensive firepower left at all. But there's going to be a scoring void nonetheless with Ariel Atkins gone. And even with Atkins last year, there was plenty of times, and with all the talent that this team has, plenty of times that bringing it all together was a challenge. The offense was just completely stagnant at times, and just completely relying on Atkins to just kind of bail them out and create something out of nothing. So I definitely like Edwards kind of filling that void for them offensively. It's a huge opportunity for her to step up and step into that top scoring role. And I think she has all the talent to do so. She showed a ton of poise in that tournament. And really throughout her play in Unrivaled, you could see just a confidence in her on the offensive side, especially. She's quick, she's assertive in her decision making. She's strong, she's big, she's physical. She's continued to work on that outside shot as well. And the more she does that, she'll have the ability to kind of move into that 3 spot as well. She plays the 4 now, but if we can get some more versatility out of her and play her at the 3 as well, that's just going to open up things for Washington with their rotation. And she would be very successful in doing so. So overall, I like Aaliyah Edwards to take a huge jump offensively at the least. But I think overall, even defensively as well, we're going to see a much better version of her here in her sophomore season. So, like I said, this is my favorite play probably of all the futures. Plus 1,800 odds, man. Look, it's a risk, obviously, but it's a risk that I think I'm going to take, and it's just determining how much I want to put on it. And next up, going to be looking at Rookie of the Year, which to some and probably most is just kind of a shoe in, right? But we're going to look at it real quick. There's two players that I have in mind that I think obviously are the top favorites for this one, and DraftKings does agree. So let's jump over there and check that out. And obviously, this is another draft class that's it's full of talent, man. There's going to be a lot of good players coming out of this draft. Obviously, the top two here are that's our favorites, right? Paige Beckers, Dominique Malonga. So here's the thing, though. I think I like Dominique more. And this is the crazy thing, right? Because Paige is going to be a star. Obviously, she's going to be a superstar in this league. The thing for me though is I just feel like Malonga is going to have an easier transition into the league. The only thing that concerns me here is the same thing that we talked about. Looking at her for Defensive Player of the Year is the front court depth that Seattle has, and I think that she's going to struggle to find consistent playing time early on in the season. I think once we're a month or so into the season, Seattle's going to be like, we got to get her out on the floor as much as possible. The talent that this kid has, and she's a kid, 19 years old, youngest player that ever be drafted into the WNBA. The talent that she possesses is unreal. They're calling her the female Wemby, right? I don't know if I would go that far. I don't think that she has as smooth and natural as a jumper as Wemby has, but she has it. She can knock down shots from the perimeter. She's got a nice fadeaway. Her follow through is beautiful. She's got a really, really nice looking shot. Um, and I think that's key, man. Like I said, I don't think she has a natural shot yet, but the form is there. The form is really pretty. And 19, that's going to come with time. She's going to get better and better. And she can dunk with ease, man. I mean, not only just one hand, she can jump up with two hands and put it down. So, you consider, like I said, the size that Seattle already has in that front court, not only with Mag Bagor, but also Ogamike. Um, I think it's going to open up a lot for Malonga, and they're going to be really, really hard to contain on the offensive end when two of the three of those players are out there, man. There's just so much size to contend with. And she's got the skill set that you could probably play her at the three, man. So imagine all three of them out there at the same time, and the height, and the length and the athleticism that you would have to contend with. It could be pretty wicked, right? Pretty scary for the rest of the league. Um, my thing with Paige, like I said, I think she's going to be a complete superstar in this league. My only thing is I think that's going to be kind of a rougher and trickier transition for her. You're in a backcourt with Arike Agubawale. You know what I mean? And it's a very ball dominant guard. She likes to shoot the ball a lot. She really does. So it's going to be interesting to see how she adjusts having Paige in the backcourt with her. Um, but I can see it going one of two ways, man. I can see it being a struggle for Paige off the rip, a lot of frustrations, but I could also see her just fitting in here seamlessly. So I definitely like Paige as a favorite here, but I like Malonga as well. I think this is one that I would stay off of, and I'm probably not going to actually place a bet, but if I was looking at it, I would be leaning in those top two, picks number one and number two. They were 1 and 2 for a reason. Paige also has a ton of expectations dropped down on her to come in and fix this Dallas franchise. I think the pressure is going to be huge. There's going to be a lot of eyes on her. Every mistake, everything that she does along the way it's going to be underneath a microscope as well. You know what I mean? I think Malonga is going to kind of be able to just kind of slide under the radar until people start to notice because she's tearing it up. You know what I mean? I think there's going to be a lot more room for error on her. There's lower expectations. She's not expected to come in and save the Seattle franchise. So I think end of the day, if I was going to make a play on this one, I would probably put my money on Malonga as the Rookie of the Year. Crazy as that sounds. Consider the history of Paige with her injuries as well, too, right? There's definitely that to keep in mind also. So a lot of different things to look at in that one. Like I said, I'm not sure that I would lean or that I will end up placing a bet on this one, but I'm leaning Malonga on this one. And next up, we're going to be looking at the MVP. And right now we have Asia sitting as a favorite, as well as Caitlin Clark. Kind of depends on which book that you're looking at. But over here at DraftKings, we do have Asia listed as the favorite, plus 200. Caitlin Clark at plus 235. I like Fee over here, guys, though, plus 500, right? And look, there's a multitude of reasons why, man. I think she's the best player in the league. I really do. Now, I could see a case for Asia. I could see a case for Caitlin Clark. Asia being the reigning MVP. Um, Obviously a superb talent. And you can make a claim for her to be the best player in the league as well, obviously. I think many people consider her the best player in the league. I just personally, I'm leaning towards Fee, man. And that's not to take anything away from Caitlin Clark either, right? She's up here as one of the favorites for a reason. That Indiana team is loaded. They're probably going to be one of the top teams in the league this year, and she's going to be the catalyst behind it. Um, but I just keep coming back to Fee, man, and and the reasons why, right? You look at last year's disappointments in the finals. They're what the Lynx are like, what, an overtime collapse away. Some bad calls in one of those games. Like they were that close to winning the championship. Um, and then she comes into the Unrivaled League. She wins the one-on-one tournament. And you could tell that that really meant something to her. She wanted, I mean, like I said earlier, talking about it, you're giving these players a platform. This is what Hoopers want. We want to be, you want to be the best, and you're giving these players a platform to prove who's the best. Fee took full advantage, and you could tell that she came into that with a mission, and mission accomplished. Um, but then also that season ends with disappointment. You know what I mean? Her Lunar Owls in the Unrivaled League was the best team throughout the regular season of Unrivaled. They get into the playoffs and they can't even make it to the finals, man. They get upset the game before the finals. So she has experienced disappointment after disappointment now in the playoffs, in both leagues this past season. She is extra motivated this season, I guarantee you. She is extra motivated to come in here, win a championship, but also assert herself at the top of the list as far as best women's basketball players in the world, not just in the league, in the world. And I think that she does that this year. I think that she comes in and proves that. And I like her, like I said, at plus 500. I think that is a great, great value pick. Obviously, you can go with the favorites of Asia and Caitlin Clark, and who could argue you off of that, right? But to me, the most value is over here at plus 500 with Fee, and that's another one that I very, very likely that I end up playing. And then as far as all of these are concerned, any of these picks that I'm going over in this video, anything that I do actually play myself, I'm going to put a link down in the pinned comment. It's going to direct you over to the Guy Boston Sports website, and that's where the final plays will live. Let's also look. Okay, we saw Fee at plus 500. Let's look at Alyssa Thomas. She's at plus 2,000. We see Sabali at plus 4,000. And then we see Kalia Copper, my favorite player in the W, at plus 5,000. Now, the reason I mentioned all three of them, we'll just go ahead and put them over here. Obviously, we're not going to parlay that together. But the reason I mentioned all three of them is because they are now the big three of the Phoenix Mercury, right? Kalia Copper was already over there. Brittany Griner's gone. Diana Taurasi retired. Thomas has now been brought into the mix. Sabali has now been brought into the mix. That's a nice big three right there, y'all. Now the concern about them is their depth, right? And we'll talk about that here once we look into the championship picks. The concern there is the depth, but if Phoenix has a good season, which it's hard to imagine that they won't with those three, even with the lack of depth, man. That is star power, just crazy star power right there. You got Copper and Sabali that are just offensive masters. I don't know how else to put it. Like they can score at will. And you got Alyssa Thomas that's like that. She's that Swiss Army knife, man. She's the I'd call her the like a prime Draymond Green, right, in the W, where she just super versatile, kind of a walking triple double in the making. So if Phoenix has success this year, I feel like Alyssa Thomas at plus 2,000, it's another one of those, like I see the value in that. Now I think that she would be the front runner um, in MVP discussions. Like I said, if Phoenix is having a really solid season. I think that she would kind of be the catalyst around it, being the fact that she can beat you so many different ways, offensively, defensively, and she's an excellent playmaker. She's typically playing that center position, and she's typically in the top 5 for assists per game every year. So definitely somebody that I like there. But I also think that like if Phoenix is having a great year, it's because Copper and Sabali are going off. So I think that their names are in the discussion as well. But definitely more of a long shot. So end of the day, obviously, like I said, Asia, Caitlin, those are your favorites. Hard to argue that. I could see path for either of them being the MVP once again. The Aces are just so damn reliant on Wilson that she's gonna put up mad numbers. You know what I mean? And then we already discussed Caitlin Clark. I like Fee the most personally at plus 500. But I also, like I said, I think Alyssa Thomas is worth a look as well. And then you got to consider Sabali and Copper if you're going to look at Alyssa Thomas. Next up, we're going to be talking about the champion who is going to take home the crown at the end of the day. Let's jump over to DraftKings and look at the odds that are laid out for us right now. We can see the Liberty defending champs are the favorites, obviously, at plus 220. And then the Aces coming in surprisingly at second, plus 330. And we got the Lynx and the Fever tied at third at plus 400. Obviously, the Fever are going to be that popular choice this season. I think going into the season, right, as the champion at plus 400. I think a lot of people will be all over that. The Mercury plus 1500, kind of a sleeper pick there. I like that as well. I like looking at that. Let's go ahead and look at these teams here at the top. And looks, I mean, there was a ton of player movement this offseason. So let's kind of look at where they stand now, who they lost, who they still have. Because I definitely think that will play into how this season shapes out, man, and what we end up seeing. The Liberty, starting with them, not a ton of losses, not a ton of additions either, but the losses and additions that we see, pretty important to mention, I believe. They do lose Courtney Vandersloot. She is now with Chicago, but then they gain Natasha Cloud from Phoenix. So an upgrade in my opinion on that one, right? But they do lose Kayla Thornton to the expansion draft. That one I do feel like is going to hurt a little more than what most people want to give credit for, right? I think that the she's definitely that's definitely an underrated loss in my opinion. She was pretty big. I won't say pretty big, but she played a pretty important role in their playoff run, knocked down some big shots and big moments. So definitely a loss. Not a loss that's going to be easily replaced, but even still, man, this Liberty team that, like I said, they're basically running back the same squad from last year, minus those two losses. The addition of Cloud is huge. Her and Anescu starting in the backcourt. That's a scary backcourt for any team to contend with. And then looking at the forward position in that starting lineup, you got Brianna Stewart, obviously, and then you have the option of either Elaine Hamilton starting or Phoebich, and then the other one coming off the bench. Like, man, what a problem to have, right? And then you got Jonquel Jones starting at center. Then you're going to have Isabel Harrison and Rebecca Gardner, both coming from Chicago. They'll be coming off the bench here as well. We still have Kennedy Burke coming off the bench. We still have Naira Sabali as well. So, look, there's a lot of talent on this Liberty team, 1 through 10. It's a very deep team once again. So, you can definitely see New York taking another run at it, right? It definitely could. Let's look at some more teams though. Let's look at the Aces now at plus 330. Like that's it's got me scratching my head some. I don't understand that one, guys. Let's look into it a little bit, right? I think the books are giving way too much credit to this Joel Lloyd edition, excuse me. Because we look at their starting five, and it's a nice starting five. Obviously, Chelsea Gray played huge and unrivaled, much better than she played last season with the Aces. In throughout the course of the season, obviously Chelsea Gray's a they call her point guard for a reason. Definitely a dominant ball handler, definitely a go-to scorer. When she's hot, she's hot. So um, definitely like that. Jewel Lloyd, though, man, I just personally feel like she's at the end of her career. She's at the downside now. Scoring production dropped off last year, just not as reliable of a go-to scorer as she had been in the past. So this addition to me does not put the Aces anywhere above where they were last year. I actually think that they have dropped off some. You look at the rest of the lineup, right? Um, who fills out the starting five? I see, probably Jackie Young at the fourth spot, Asia Wilson at the center. Who's that fifth player? Is it Kia Stokes? Because, she started for most of the season last year, but wasn't, didn't blow us away with her production. And coming off the bench, it's Evans and not a lot of depth for this Aces team, man. I think losing Kelsey Plum and replacing her with Joel Lloyd, I don't like it, man. I like the production that you get from Plum much more than Lloyd. It's more consistent. And then losing Alicia Clark off the bench as well for the Aces, they just lost a ton of depth in my opinion. They've lost offensive scoring power. I don't know, man. I think this Aces team, that especially last year, they became way too reliant on Wilson down the stretch. I think that you've lost some of your offensive firepower now, and if you're relying on Lloyd to pick that up, while letting Plum go, I don't know. I don't see the logic here and the train of thought. But this is why I'm not a GM for a WNBA team. I could be missing something here. So I'm just not seeing it, guys. I don't like the Aces as a favorite to win the championship. I don't even like them getting there. I think that they'll struggle to get to the playoffs and be a second round exit at best. That's the ceiling, in my opinion. We scroll down here and look. All right, let's look at the third uh, ranked team here as far as the futures are concerned. We'll look at the Lynx and then the Fever. Now, Lynx are running them back, man. Right? They lost Hines Allen. They brought in Carly Samuelson. So that's the major difference here. Otherwise, it's the same squad as last year that damn near won it all. Right? Now they obviously it surprised a lot of people last year. Nobody went into the offseason or nobody came in from the offseason into the regular season last year like the Lynx are the team to beat. The Lynx are the team to beat. And they definitely um, benefited from Courtney Williams, Kayla McBride, Bridget Carlton, even Fee, Alana Smith. That entire starting five, they all played the best seasons of their career last season. I mean, typically it's hard to repeat that, right? You're not going to have everybody have their best season one year and then the following season they all have their best season again. It's obviously there's going to be some regression, but the thing about this team is the chemistry and the cohesion. It was already there last year. We saw it. They have so many perimeter shooters. Really, 1 through 5 can knock it in from three. And then they're a phenomenal defensive team. So I like the Lynx personally, man. That's probably going to be my pick for the future champion. But we'll dive into the rest of the teams too. But I like, talking about Fee with the MVP, like we just talked about. Man, it reminds me. I'm sorry to all the Laker haters out there. I got to reference Kobe, but it reminds me of Kobe in what was it, 07, 08, when Evan Tasso Celtics took out my boys, right? It reminds me of that though, where Kobe came back that next year and he was on a mission. He was on a mission, man. And I think that a lot of Laker fans like myself, he'd stick that jaw out, if we kind of could see it in his eyes that like, there ain't nobody beating this dude. And I feel that way with Fia this year, man. I feel like she's gonna come out. I don't know if she's gonna stick the jaw out at all. She should. That'd be cool. But man, I feel the same way. Like she's gonna come in here on a mission. Ain't nobody gonna stop her, dude. So that's kind of where I'm at. And they got depth, right? Like I said, they got Carly Samuelson now coming off the bench, Natasha Heidemann, Diamond Miller. They've got some depth. So I definitely like this Minnesota Lynx team. But let's look at the Fever, man. We can't ignore the Fever. Like I said, it's going to be a big. It's probably going to be a favorite amongst the betting public. You know what I mean? I would be interested to see those numbers and where it's lying already. But I'm not going to lie. Any kind of like parlays that I've seen of people doing futures where the WNBA is involved, I haven't seen anybody pick anybody else yet. It's the Fever. That's the champion, right? And I get it. Let's look at their starting five, right? Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell in the backcourt. That's another scary backcourt, man, because Caitlin Clark has showed us last year. Everybody just talks about her shooting. You know what I mean? The casual fans talk about her shooting and her scoring. What they don't realize is that's like not even the best aspect of her game, man. She is a fantastic defender as well. Fantastic. And then her ball vision, insane. Her court vision, rather. Insane, man. Some of the passes she reminds me of Jason Kidd. You know what I mean? She's the female Jason Kidd out there. Oh my gosh, the way she can throw a bounce pass in between multiple defenders and get to get to her player that's right underneath the rim for the easiest of buckets. Like Clark makes everyone around her better. That's why she's in the MVP discussion. That's why she was in the MVP discussion in her rookie season even. That's the starting backcourt. Now we signed Dewana Bonner. We brought her in from Connecticut to as a forward. We have Natasha Howard as well, brought in from Dallas, and then Aaliyah Boston rounding out the starting five. That is a phenomenal starting five right there. You have so much of everything you need. You know what I mean? You have the defensive uh, presence down low with Howard. You have the rebounding down there with Howard and Boston. You have an interior post presence with Boston. You have shooting with Bonner. You have perimeter defense with Bonner. You have shooting with Mitchell. We already discussed Clark. Like that is a phenomenal starting five. And then you have Sydney Colson coming off the bench, brought in from the Aces. You have Lexi Hall still. We have Sophie Cunningham coming in off the bench, brought in from Phoenix. They drafted rookie Bree Hall. So much talent, right? Now they lost Melissa Smith. They did lose Fog Bentley as well. But we just mentioned the players that they gained. They also brought in Brianna Turner. They brought in Jalen Brown from Dallas as well. She was hurt most of last season as well. That's a talent that, that definitely, if she's healthy this year, it's just another piece to this roster that is kind of loaded, right? My only thing with them is that it's just an experience factor, and that's why I still lean towards the Lynx at the end of the day, is that experience. I think that will prove vital through a playoff run. Um, I'd be lying to you if I said that I didn't see a path for the Fever. They could definitely take it all as well. Caitlin Clark could just take that next step and just become the ultimate superstar in the second season, right? And then we'll look at the Phoenix Mercury, but this one's going to be quick, guys. We'll just look at that starting five, and this is why it's going to be quick, is because really, like I said, this is a sleeper pick in my opinion. They're plus 1,500. It's definitely worth a look, and it's because of that big three, man. Kalia Copper, Sabali, Alyssa Thomas. Like that big three right there is deadly. But that's kind of where it starts and ends with this Phoenix team. You know what I mean? Who's the starting point guard? That's a big question mark. Natasha Mack coming off the bench, Sammy Whitcomb. There's not a lot of depth. You know what I mean? So definitely an issue there when you compare Phoenix against the New York Liberties, the Indiana Fevers, the Minnesota Lynx. That's where it starts to become an issue. Even against the Aces, I feel like the Aces have more depth, right? And I feel like Phoenix has more star power overall with their big three. Even that's questionable going up against the Aces and Jackie Young, Asia Wilson, Chelsea Gray. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know about Phoenix end of the day, but it's definitely I thought it was worth mentioning just because of that big three and what they can bring to the table. And I talked about Alyssa Thomas too, and how she could just kind of be the catalyst to you know, get the best out of everybody. So maybe there's some role players on Phoenix that we don't really that we see more out of them just with the addition of Alyssa Thomas and what she can bring to the floor as far as a playmaker is concerned. So I think those are the top four as far as like championship contenders, right? I do think that there's some teams to watch that could make some noise in the playoffs, or could get to the playoffs, right? Make some noise in the regular season and get into the playoffs. As far as winning a championship, probably not, but I do think it's worth noting, the Atlanta Dream, a lot of additions. They brought in Brittany Griner as well and Brianna Jones from the Sun. So I definitely like that. That's a nice little front court to go along with Ryan Howard, Jordan Canada, and Alicia Gray. So that forms a pretty nice starting five right there. So I like that for the Dream. I definitely think that they'll be improved from last season. They had a lot of injuries last season as well, and then kind of made a run towards the end of the year and made things interesting too. So I like the Dream coming into this season. I think that we'll see some improvement from them. Also, the Los Angeles Sparks, right? Brought in Kelsey Plum. You got Cameron Brink coming back from injury. I think Rakia Jackson takes another step this season as well. She was had a great rookie season, and showcased a lot of talent, especially on the offensive side of the ball. She's got a smooth jumper, man. So definitely could see her. Excuse me. Definitely could see her taking another step up. And Sparks got a handful of talent on that side or on that team as well, man. It's definitely not a bad squad whatsoever. A lot of offensive firepower on that side of the ball, so I definitely think that at the least the Sparks are going to be fun and entertaining to watch this season. And then obviously the Dallas Wings, man, bringing in Paige Beckers. It's it's untelling what she can bring to the table in her first season. Is she going to be, Caitlin Clark 2.0 and just, put Dallas right into the playoff contention? It's possible. Is she going to struggle a little bit at the beginning of the year? It's possible. But nonetheless, it's kind of the same thing as the Sparks, where the Wings they're going to be fun to watch. You combine her with Arike Ogunbowale in that backcourt. Like I said earlier, there's going to be some hiccups, but at the end of the day, towards the end of the season, once they gel and they start getting some chemistry and some rhythm together, man, that is going to be an exciting backcourt to watch. So I think those three teams are definitely teams to watch. Like I said, I don't think that I would be placing any wagers on them to win it all, but it's definitely something to keep in your mind moving into the season. And looking at these teams, they're not the same teams as last year. And with that said, really kind of up and down throughout the entirety of the league. 13 teams in the league now with the expansion team, but up and down through those 13 teams, man. There's been a handful of roster changes, so definitely get up to date there. Um, heading into that May 16th tip off, don't go into that tip off and start placing wagers based off last year's results because while some of that will reign true, not all of it, man. Like I said, there's been a ton of player movement. So definitely something to keep in mind. But I kind of went off topic here. Let's go right back there and look at the Futures Champion real quick. And like I said, guys, judging off of all of those, man, the Liberty, the Fever, the Aces, and the Lynx. Those are kind of the top four. I'm going with the Lynx personally, and I'm going to put a play in on that. It's another one where I'm not sure. Maybe a half unit, maybe a full unit. Not 100%, but definitely going to rock with the Lynx here. I like the Liberty guys. Like I said, man, they're running back the same team, and they swapped out Courtney Vandersloot, an aging Courtney Vandersloot, for Natasha Cloud. So they're the champs until somebody takes them off. But here's the thing, is that with all that said, and with how great of a roster they had a great roster last year too, man, and they struggled throughout those playoffs. You know what I mean? They struggled. There was plenty of opportunities for somebody to step up and take them out. Minnesota damn near did it. And while I had bets on the Liberty, man, like Liberty wanted me some money through those finals, don't get it twisted. But game 5, specifically, there were some calls there that were just kinda like, "Huh, man." I feel for Minnesota, I really do, and, like I said, I think that that motivation is what fuels them this season. I don't think the Aces have what it takes, and I don't think the Fever have the experience yet, to take down a Minnesota or a New York. So end of the day, I'm going with the Lynx, right? I would say the Liberty have the second best chance, then the Fever. That's where I'm standing, right, if I'm gonna rank those top 3 contenders. So, guys, that is going to wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoyed the content today. I hope you found it helpful and useful. And if you did, please don't forget to smash that like button down there and hit subscribe if you haven't already. Do it now, guys. That way you are here for the beginning of the WNBA season. We can rock together and stack up on these units week after week. That is the ultimate goal, man. Let's bet on some WNBA action, have some fun while we're doing it, and be profitable. All right, guys. I will see you at the start of the season, man, May 16th. Expect my face to pop up around May 15th so we can talk about the tip off and get our opening day wagers in. I'll see you guys then.